Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Top Billers Toolkit, where me and my twin brother interview top billers from all around the globe to unlock the secrets to their success. Today's guest is Dawson Hennis. Dawson has run a perm desk in the US in the manufacturing space for many years now. He's recently just introduced a perm/contract division, and since March, when he opened of this year, he's already generated over 400K in profit, which is absolutely insane. It's already surpassed his perm business in just 6 months. It's providing him regular income on a monthly basis, so regular cash flow, and it's completely changed the way that Dawson does business. In today's episode, we go really deep. We ask him tons of questions on how he transitioned, how he set up the systems and processes, how he does his BD, even down to the margin, percentages, types of roles. If you're a recruiter at the moment and you've been thinking about dipping your foot into the contract/temp space and you want to learn how to do it, this is going to be the perfect episode. I got a ton of value from this episode, guys, and it was genuinely completely different to anything we've done before. As usual, grab a cuppa or a glass of wine, depending on when you're listening to this, and let's jump into it, shall we? Wait a second, guys. Quick question for you. If you could land a new client on LinkedIn in the next couple of weeks, how much would that be worth to you? 20, 30, maybe 40K? Well, we have a pretty crazy offer on right now. If you are a recruitment business owner, then we will work with you for free and write you 2 posts at absolutely no cost. And here's the cool part. Other recruiters that have come through this free trial have managed to win new clients. They've racked up hundreds of thousands of impressions and started conversations with top-tier candidates. It's completely risk-free, so you have nothing to lose and everything to gain. If you're interested, the link's in the description below. If not, no worries. We hope you enjoy the podcast. See you later. Dawson, thank you so much for coming on Top Billers Toolkit. How are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm excited to be here. I've been a fan of the podcast for a while. Appreciate all that you guys do for our community. So definitely excited to be here.
Awesome, dude. Awesome. Thank you so much for coming on. Let's just jump into the first question, as always, which is, what's the number one tool in your toolkit, whether it be a mindset, strategy, or software?
For me, it's definitely a mindset driven piece. For me, it is mixing curiosity with the growth mindset. In this business, I think it's very easy to get locked into a day to day routine and a lot of repeatable actions. So for me, leading with curiosity and constantly seeking out new information through podcasts, peers, people that are 2, 5 steps ahead of me, that's been really big for me. So I can continue to learn and apply new information to both my practice and my team. That way we can keep taking things to the next level. And hopefully I look way different a year from now versus where the business is right now.
Interesting. I think that's a common theme between top billers, is they are always learning and always trying to improve. I'd love to just jump straight into the gold, Dawson, because this podcast is going to be mainly around how you've taken your business from a purely perm business to a now perm contract and temp business. And you've made a shed load of money in the last 6 months. You have really transformed your business in the last 6 months from introducing contract and temp. And I'd love to explore that in as much detail as possible so that other perm recruiters listening to this might be able to do the same thing one day. Maybe just starting from the beginning, what made you even consider the contract temp world, considering you'd been perm for so long?
This is really new and it's really exciting and fresh for us. So hopefully I can give a take of somebody who's really just fresh into it. So we started back in 2023 and I was only doing permanent placements and I run in the manufacturing space. So I do a lot of engineers and plant leadership and roles like that. And we've lived in the perm space that I think most of the audience is very familiar with. And then in March of this year, we decided to take a jump into the contract temp to hire space. And it's completely flipped our business upside down in the best way possible. So what we were looking at was a way to get repeatable recurring revenue into the business rather than living in the lumpy perm deal to deal space. So this has allowed us to really build something new, have repeatable business and expand our offerings to our clients. So I'm excited to jump in a little bit more about what that's looked like and like how that's going to change things for us going forward.
Awesome. And what did you hit, like, Did you observe another recruiter? Did you hear it on a podcast? Like, what actually got it onto your radar in the first place to do this, Dawson?
So at the beginning of this year, I hired an executive coach. I came to her because the business was growing gradually year over year, but I didn't feel like I was taking that next step as a founder. And going back to the curiosity growth mindset piece, I want the business to continue to look different and evolve. But we were living in just this deal to deal phase, and some quarters were awesome. We felt great. Some quarters were down. And I was looking at how can we grow this thing with a lot of momentum and build a recurring base and make it feel like more of a business than just a perm desk. So the idea was to introduce temp staffing and see if we could just stack a little bit of recurring revenue to justify the next hire on my team to keep growing the team. And I thought it was going to be a bit of a supplemental bump to our income, but it's truly become probably the main driver of revenue for us going forward.
Yeah. I just want to jump in, Dawson, and ask. So I'm perm. I've never done contract before. Where do you even start? Like, is it like where was your first step in opening up a temp slash contract desk? Is it exactly the same as
So
perm?
in terms
Is it completely different?
Yeah, so in terms of what it looked like with my client base, that was introducing the concept to my clients and bringing those conversations forward, trying to figure out, do you use contract? Do you use temp? From my past world, my previous life working for Randstad prior to this, I've already seen my clientele use this, so I did have an idea. I am operating in a little bit of a different space at a higher level than what I used to do, so there was some new intricacies for me to figure out, but in terms of getting going with my client base, it was as simple as having those conversations with clients that we've made successful perm placements with and figuring out, what does this look like? Do you use my competition to do this? If I were to take this step, would you work with us? And then logistically, there's the piece when you're looking at hiring, onboarding, and retaining W-2 employees under your staffing agency. And I saw this as a huge undertaking, and probably a reason that myself and many people never take this jump is because I can't imagine onboarding somebody, and I'm in the United States, so somebody in South Carolina, then Georgia, Nebraska, and like understand all this compliance, keeping up with payroll if workers comp comes up. So I found what's called an EOR, an employer of record, and I partnered with them so that they're able to manage payroll, onboarding, and they do take the financial, call it the financial risk in terms of fronting that payroll so that you can get running with your clients, get 5, 10, 100 temps on a recurring basis, and they're able to advance those payments to you and then collect invoices on your behalf. Because it can be a really big financial undertaking if you try to put all the pieces together yourself.
Really interesting. So, and this is really, I had no idea this was the case, Dawson, and it's really fascinating. Am I right in saying that the majority of your temp contract work came from your current clientele? You just spoke to them and opened up the conversation to say, hey, are you doing this? Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Initially, we were just working with existing clients. Now that we've been running in this space for 6 months, we've brought on new clients that this was the focus. But it's also been really cool because those are clients that 6 months ago I wouldn't have been able to even have a conversation with because we didn't offer this. But yeah, getting going, it was just working with clients that we already work with. And I think it's really reassuring as I talk to people in my circle who are in the perm space and are looking for this new avenue is that you probably don't have to take a huge undertaking, revamp your business, taking it in a whole different direction. You can really work with who you know and get going on it.
Hmm. And brilliant. And just so we're aware as well, Dawson, what are the types of companies that you're currently working with? Just so I can understand in my head what that looks like. And then what types of roles were you offering to place on the temp contract side that kind of got your foot through the door?
Yeah, so my clientele is in the manufacturing industrial space. I mostly serve the southeast of the United States, but we do have a national reach as our clients demand it. And the type of roles that we're filling on the temp side are mostly skilled trades. So we're looking at welders, machine operators, but then we also do have the occasional supervisor or a superintendent that's on a contract. So it might be a higher level role, but for a predetermined amount of time. But where the demand comes from our clientele in the manufacturing space is what's called the temp to hire route. So there is a lot of volatility and call it just large demand in terms of the headcount that they need to scale through these machine operators, the skilled trades. And what they want to do is hire individuals on a temp basis. And it's sort of a try before you buy period where they get to assess that person for call it 3 to 6 months. work them through the temp phase, and at that point, they can hire them on as a full-time person in their company. And I would say in my space, it's very appealing, and we advise our clients to use the temp to hire route for a lot of the skilled trade roles just because of the volatility. Let's not burn you with the perm fees and the refills and stuff because we know that there is going to be the occasional fall offs. So let's go ahead and do this through the temp to hire phase, and you can take it more gradually as well in terms of the payments as well because you're getting billed hourly versus a bunch of perm fees up front.
Interesting. So is that like an offer going into clients, Dawson? You're like, hey, you don't have to do a perm straight away. I do temp. Try this first. It's lower risk. See if you like him or her, and then bring them on full time. Is that like has that helped you win more business? Just that one thing alone, or
Yeah, that piece is pretty big. And if someone does have reluctancy to go the perm route, it's definitely a new offering that we have now. I would say the conversation is mainly around the headcount and the scaling because
Mm.
sometimes these clients are going to be hiring 25 people in a month. So looking at that with a perm client or perm recruiting firm probably just isn't a substantial like a call it sustainable route. So
Mm.
I think that this is a really good route for them to take.
Interesting, man. And again, just my curiosity, what has been the biggest shift from going from perm to contract? Like if you were sitting in front of a brand new recruiter now who was trying to do the same thing you were doing, Dawson, is there any major things they need to be aware of in terms of day to day or mindset or operationally?
I think the pace of play is the biggest difference that I've seen. In our perm business, in any given month, we're making 2 to 5 placements. I would say now with our temp division, every week we're making 2 to 5, if not more
Wow.
placements. So you're seeing the results come in a lot more, and then also just the activity that goes into it. For a very good high level perm search, you might have to reach out to 20 candidates, get your short list of 5, and you're playing that game versus this, you have 5 openings, so you have to multiply the amount of candidates that you're looking to get into the action. I will say that clients are usually quicker to hire because they're not looking at making this long-term, high-stakes perm placement. They're bringing
Mm.
someone up on the temp phase, so they're a lot more willing to have one interview and take trust in our screening and have that one interview and take the hire, take the risk. So I'll say everything's multiplied. You have more bodies coming through the process, and you're gonna have more good things happen, but you're also gonna have more bad things happen. You're gonna have more hires, more successful interviews. If you're in a space where you see no-shows or things go sideways with candidates, it's gonna happen 3 times as much. So everything's just happening at a bigger scale at a faster pace. Not saying that either way is the better route. I think it's really just gonna be personality driven. Maybe someone who's more methodical and wants to see the big hits and
Mm.
can have the patience to see it take time, that they might lean towards the perm side versus you're someone that wants to get in there, just rush from the start of the day to the end of the day and have like hit after hit after hit. Maybe you lean towards the temp side. And now that we've been doing it for 6 months, I have someone that's focusing on perm and someone's focusing on temp. I do think that the more we're doing it, the more that I see that there is 2 different personality types. Not to say
Mhm.
someone can't do it all themselves, but it is something to consider. Am I one or the other, or would I like a blend of the 2 if you're gonna try to do them both?
Interesting. And just so again, just to give other recruiters who might want to jump into this an idea on what they need to change and or adjust other than the EOR, which we'll get into, what other systems or like infrastructure did you have to change to support this? Did you have to hire more people, Dawson? Did you have to like buy certain softwares for outreach? Did you have to like adjust? Like, what did you have to change in the business in order to kind of keep up with that demand and deliver?
One thing that might be really relieving to the audience is that there's not a lot of change that you probably need to do. Your business development is going to be the same. Ultimately, you're trying to get prospects on the phone, have meaningful conversations, like land that first search and then build the partnership. In terms of recruiting tools, I will say with a lot of that hourly skilled trades, we've had more success on platforms like Indeed versus with our permanent searches, we tend to win on LinkedIn Recruiter.
Mm.
So there's a little bit of a difference maybe on where you're gonna find your candidates. If you're playing in the IT, the healthcare space, maybe with your temp and contract, you still might be on LinkedIn Recruiter, maybe your whole candidate pool sits there. But for me, I've seen a pretty clear divide. that are permanent placements, call it 70K US dollar salaries and up. We're going to find them on LinkedIn Recruiter. Anything under that, we're on Indeed. And then in terms of my team, I did hire probably before I needed it, but it worked out great. So I'm happy to say that I did. But I did bring in someone new to lead this temp division. It's interestingly enough, my guy Will Moats on my team. I interviewed him for a client of mine for a sales role a couple of years ago. And it was a beautiful time for us to circle back. He saw that I was growing and that we had this opportunity. So he's come into the space brand new to the staffing game, but he's jumped right into and he's crushing it. But bringing him on was like really key because we were pretty maxed out in terms of our time that we were allotted towards perm efforts. So had we tried to put ourselves into the temp side and in the perm side, there might have been a little bit of crossing hairs, and maybe both sides would have lacked reaching their full potential. Versus, I've got a guy focused on perm, and I got a woman focused on perm, and a guy focused on temp, and then I'm kind of navigating the middle of the two.
Cool. Really interesting. Um, really, really interesting. And maybe Sam, unless you have any other questions on that piece, maybe we can. I have just one more. What percentage of, let's say you have a new client and they're more open to trying temp first, Dawson. What percentage of, and this is quite a difficult question, I wouldn't expect you to have this data, but I'm just going to ask anyway. What percentage of temp then turn into a perm role? Is it quite common for a client to try a temp person and then it turn into a perm role, or is that a rarity? What would you say, mate?
Yeah, so are you asking in terms of that particular placement that they're gonna bring in someone through the temp phase and then hire them on perm? Or are you talking about we start with temps, then do perm searches?
Um, I was speaking in a specific sense, like you've just joined a client, they are more comfortable doing temp to begin with because they don't want any
Yeah,
risk. I'm just curious
yeah.
what the chances are that they then turn into perm.
Hmm.
Does that make
That's a
sense?
good Yeah. I'm trying to think, I don't have the particular data on that. I would say that the majority that are working with us in the temp phase, they are gonna lean pretty heavily in that in terms of scaling their workforce, and
Yeah,
for those type of roles, they'll probably stay in that lane,
cool.
but there's always opportunities to do perm with them on higher level roles, so
Cool.
where we find the most success is when there's a clear understanding of what should be a perm role and what should be a temp.
Cool. If that makes sense. What are the biggest mistakes you've made? And I don't, hope we don't want to focus too much on mistakes, Dawson, because we like to stay positive and look towards what's worked. But I think you can learn a lot from what went wrong as well. So it's been 6 months, so still early days, but you already scaled it to 400K profit, which is insane. But what are the biggest mistakes and learning curves you've made in the last 6 months, you think?
Yeah, the biggest mistake and learning piece for us is that we initially kept our scope very tight. I think why a lot of perm search firms are successful, and there's some that don't do this that are successful, but a lot of people niche down, they find their space and they run in it and they're the best at it. When we introduced this to our clients, we said that we're only going to do this for roles that we feel like we can apply high level recruiting to. And that's going to be like these particular skill sets in the skilled trade space that we're going to have to truly recruit and do the same thing for. A lot of our clients started to introduce to us roles that were compensating, call it like $15 to $17 an hour, maybe even less. And they're general labor roles. And they're looking at someone who can come in, grab this thing, walk it over there. And like, by all means, like, there are definitely agencies that need to fill that gap. And those are such important parts of the facility, but we found that it didn't really suit who we are or what we are. So we've
Mm.
steered away from it. And it's really tempting because that's where a facility might say, hey, we need 50 people from you in the next 2 months. And you, as a recruiter, you're just starting to do the numbers on like what you can build there. And it's
Mm.
super tempting, but there's so many negative trade offs that come with that. The onboarding with that group can just be a disaster because you're just onboarding the gazillion people at once.
Mhm.
If you're getting distracted with all the onboarding, that can be a mess. The margins get super thin because if you're thinking of a markup percentage, the smaller that salary gets, the smaller those fees are going to be. And that group, in terms of retention volatility, is just the wild west.
Yeah,
In my
I can
previous
imagine.
job, I did it. I'd hire 10 people, and if there was 3 left on a Friday, we were like high fiving just because the volatility was crazy. So
That's crazy. That's nuts.
yeah. So
Um,
yeah, there's firms that definitely need to win that space. We just realized that wasn't for us, and we wanted to stay in our lane with more high margin, high quality opportunities.
Interesting. And what is the hourly rate or salary where it starts to become more profitable, Dawson, where the time to profit makes sense?
Yeah, so in terms of US dollars, we're looking at roles that are $20 up. I would say in our skilled trades range, we're looking at a lot of roles in the mid 20s to the mid 30s.
Hmm.
And that's really been our sweet spot that we've been swimming in right lately.
Awesome. Really
Interesting.
interesting. I find it so fascinating how the lower the hourly wage, the less the retention, and then you go slightly up, and then it starts to increase. It's just
Yeah.
fascinating psychology of like how humans behave according to how much they're being paid. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It is
yeah.
interesting actually. Um, cool, really interesting. So that was one big mistake or learning curve, Dawson, which is like staying in a lane that's profitable, that isn't, that's going to be worth your time. Was there any other mistakes or learning curves that were like big aha moments? If there's not, it's fine. I just
Yeah.
want to kind of see.
Yeah, one other thing I think about is business development. I think this is super important. I know that I mentioned you don't probably need to change a lot to start swimming in this lane. I decided that I wanted to completely flip our business development and I started approaching it with different language and I made it all about temp. I started making it all about these partnerships and I was envisioning companies using us for 20 different roles versus the success that I've had in my business development for perm has been trying to win that first opportunity by speaking to the pain points, finding what is that one opening, winning that search, and then from there building within the client. I kind of went against my own advice and I started speaking to these broad partnerships and speaking about we're this temp partner, we can scale your whole workforce rather than just speaking to the specific pain points and the small opportunities to get in and win. So I would say there was a point where our new business development slowed down because I got really far away from what we've been successful with for the last few years. So now I've brought it back to a healthy middle ground where we speak to those specific pain points, try to win those small opportunities, and then we introduce our temp and perm recruiting services.
That's really
Interesting.
fascinating. So just to kind of confirm that, or just to reiterate that, Dawson, just so I understood it, when you were pitching, your most successful BD wins have been when you've gone to a company, found one role, dug into that pain, filled that, did a good job, and build the relationship from there. And the thing that went wrong was you were kind of pitching your broad business and how you can serve them, and kind of trying to pitch a bigger package as opposed to solving a specific problem. Am I right in saying that?
Exactly.
Yeah, really.
Exactly. Because I was making it about us in that new route rather than making it about them.
Yeah, really fascinating, man. Um, I'd
Sorry,
love
Ben, quick question.
to jump into the EOR because that is something that I was aware of it, but I haven't had too many conversations around it. What is it? Maybe if you just like pretend we're speaking to an 8-year-old, Dawson, like what is the EOR system that you, or the company that, or the EOR as a system, what is it?
Sure. So the company that I use is called Signature Back Office. And if we're looking at our partnership with them, it was a super quick lift. So I met with them one week and then I had temps getting onboarded with them the following week. So what they are going to do is basically every time you go to a client, you're going to bring them into your contract. You're going to sign off that they're the official employer of record. So you have to communicate to your clients, Henvis Group or XYC search firm, we are the relationship managers. We are the ones managing these candidates. We're managing your relationship. You're dealing with us, but this is our back office provider who is going to support the back office process. You can build it up in a way that makes it where they're more of a support system than anything else. And what they do for us is once we recruit for a company, so say our client asks us to find a welder, it's all on us. We're going to go, we're going to find the candidate, do the recruiting you're used to doing. Once an offer is extended, that's where we're going to bring signature back office in, the EOR, and they're going to reach out to that candidate, initiate onboarding, get them registered as employee, do background checks. They're going to coordinate their drug test, which is awesome. I don't know about you guys. While we're in this HR space, like I'm not an HR guy. I don't want to manage onboarding. I want to sell. I want to recruit.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what I'm focused on. And I think that's how a lot of people in our space are. And that's probably a hesitancy of doing this is the onboarding and all that. So they get in, they do all the onboarding. And then once that employee is working, they're the ones that manage payroll. So our clients feed payroll into their system. They run it weekly. If a workers' comp claim comes up, which hasn't happened for us yet, they are the ones that would handle that process. If you take on a client in a new state, they're the ones that handle that registration. And trying to think what else they might offer. That's really the simplicity of it. They're the employer. So you get to
Yeah.
manage the relationship, do what you're good at, and then they front the payroll to the employees and provide you with weekly payouts. So if you have a welder working this week, you're going to get paid on that next week rather than waiting on that invoice. So it's a big win for you as a recruiting firm that you can quickly see the return on investment
Yeah.
working with
Awesome.
them.
Great model. Great
Yeah,
model.
super great model. Like, yeah, just like no matter why wouldn't you use that? Like as a recruiter, like it's a lifesaver. That's brilliant.
Yeah.
So what? So they're doing a huge chunk of it. What's the number one thing that you're doing then, Dawson? If the COR company are managing all the back end admin stuff, salary, what's the number one thing that you're doing in the management kind of process then?
Yeah, in terms of like a staffing company in general or me
Yeah.
and my business?
Well, within your business, like, so if EOR are taking that sounds like they're doing a lot of the admin and kind of back end stuff. Is it
Yeah.
just about you kind of managing relationships and making sure that they're arriving on time and making sure that, like, what are the main things that you focus on then, just to clarify?
Exactly. They take all the HR and all the fluff out of things, so you can continue to be a recruiter and you can continue to sell. What is different with the temp piece you just mentioned, are you keeping up with that, making sure that they got there on time? In the perm space, you hire somebody and then you hand them off to the company, they onboard them. You check in, hey, you good to go for your first day? How'd it go? Whatever your process is from there. But it's very hands off at that point because the company hired them. What
Mm.
you have to look at with these temps, say they're on a 6-month temp to hire track, you need to make sure that they know where they're going on the first day. They know who their supervisor is. If they're going to need off for a few days, they're going to have to feed that information either to their supervisor or through you. So there is going to be ongoing candidate management. And I think that's a really important piece to think of. Like, who are you placing in terms of the candidates that you're going to have to manage? That's why we try to stay away from the 200 headcount general labor roles because I know I've seen that before. We become full-time employee managers
Mm.
versus recruiters. So this gives us a chance to keep running in that direction.
Interesting. Do you check in with all the candidates also? Do you have someone to do that for you? How does that work?
Yeah, so in terms of on my team, Will is the lead of our temp division, and then
Cool.
Sarah sometimes supports recruiting for the temp roles.
Cool.
When Will gets them hired, he'll see everything through, make sure that they get onboarding complete. While he's not managing onboarding, he'll see it through. And
Yeah.
then he'll check in with candidates on the first day. If you have someone that's great, you check in with them the first day, the first week, and you can do the periodic check-in. Ideally, you don't hear about them until it's time for them to get hired. They just go to work Monday through Friday, and it's on it's just on cruise control.
Cool.
If someone has maybe needs for communication because they're having issues at work or need performance issues or something, then that's when you need to touch base with them. So we 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 to be transparent, we keep it in touch as much as that person needs us to.
Yes, that makes sense.
I-
That makes
I've
sense.
also, I've also really, I'm not sure if you feel comfortable sharing this, Dawson, but I've always been interested in how do you figure out that markup? Because I know, I'm guessing recruiters and temp and contract, they kind of, I'm sure it varies depending on the company, but what's like an average markup? Like, what would you be looking at? You don't have to tell us your exact markup, but what would be an average? Like, what do you think is kind of a industry standard?
I was a hot mess when I first started. I was like, "What is the markup?" I kept calling my coach for every role, asking her to help me figure it out. And my advice is that it really is going to vary by space. But for me, our typical markup is 60% on the hour for every role. So that is the rate that we go for. For folks to understand that we're doing very high level recruiting and we're finding people in very tight niches, they see the value in that. Where we sometimes run into issues is folks who compare us to their high volume staffing agency, which has a much lower markup, typically 30, 30 to 45%.
Mm.
We sometimes get stacked up against them and we're doing a different thing at the end of the day. It looks the
Yeah.
same, but it's different. And I would say folks in my space, I see they range from 55 to 65%. So we tend to land in the middle. If we know that we're going to get a high volume opportunity with them, maybe we'll look at a scaling markup situation, but we try to come in at 60% and keep it
Awesome.
there.
Very healthy. And now I'm just curious because, like, I'm looking at your business, Dawson, from the conversation and thinking about it. I'm like, you've been doing perm this whole time, and then you basically got the temp contract desk up in 6 months to the level that your perm is at. I'm like, that's insane. Why don't you just completely stop the perm and just put all your eggs into the contract and temp? I'm just curious what your thinking is behind that.
Yeah. So for context, the previous year, like 2 years ago, my perm desk, we did 283,000. Last year we did 400,000. We launched this temp division 6 months ago, and we're now on a $400,000 gross profit run rate.
It's awesome.
And that's after all expenses are accounted for. So our
Nice.
temp division is now equal with our perm division. We're on an 800K run rate. Very confident that going into next year, we can be $1 million plus group, which is super exciting. Why don't we just focus on temp? That's a good question. We are looking at it and we're super excited. We're seeing the growth. I will say we have so many relationships that have grown from these perm placements and
Mhm.
history that we have. So we know how to do it. We have the process figured out. We already have the relationships. And in this business, it sometimes takes years to build those. So I think we would kick ourselves if we ever just walked away from it and said, no, we're going to turn down this
Yeah.
$35,000 fee. So
Yeah.
we're gonna keep doing it. And then I think it allows us to maybe offset ups and downs. If we run into a super tight market, for whatever economic factors are going on, and people are more reluctant to hire new talent directly into our organization, they might look more at temp and contract workers because they're less of a big commitment versus times where there's more of an economic boom. People are ready to scale their headcount and make a bunch of permanent placements. We want to be able to capitalize on both. And then in terms of our clients, they're now seeing us as a full circle recruiter, not just the perm group, not just the temp group. So this allows us to create a little bit of a moat around our clients so
Yeah.
our competition can't get in because we'll win on every angle. But looking at the future, just seeing how fast this has scaled, I do see us getting to a point where we're 80-90% temp contract business and then just
Mm.
supplementing that with perm success.
Yeah, good answers to be fair. I think that makes perfect sense, which is like you have diverse revenue streams for markets that shift and change, which is always going to happen in recruitment. And then I think you're right; they kind of complement each other, don't they? It's like you could win temp contract and perm from one client, or you might get in perm first and then do temp and vice versa. So it makes perfect sense why you would want to keep both. What's it?
And we're all a sucker for that big perm fee. We can't lie.
Yeah, of course. I can imagine like a big, 35, 40K fee that just comes into the bank must be really nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
what is it? Because I can imagine, as we know, perm can be very up and down, even for, very good recruiters like yourself, Dawson. How has it changed your business having that consistent revenue? Like, is it, and it might just be a mindset thing, but or it could be something tangible in terms of actually how you operate as well. But how has that changed your business, do you think, having that consistent revenue?
Knowing that we have that consistent base, I think allows us to really justify our expenses and our growth initiatives. Before, I would look at every quarter and say, if we do what we did last quarter, or if we just keep it within 20%, or we grow it by 20%, then I could probably hire that next person. Or I would feel more comfortable taking on this new license, service provider, whatever it is, to try to grow. Versus now I can say, I know that this division is gonna make 30K next month in just temp billings, so I can justify hiring that person that's gonna cost me 10, 15, 20K. I
Yeah.
know that that piece is there. And then from the owner's perspective too, I've lived in this perm business and I've had quarters and years where I was able to pay myself this much. I had quarters where I had to take a step back and we kind of play that up and down game. Where now I can look at it in a very healthy, consistent way and say, like, there's gonna be this much for me at the end of the day.
Mm,
Mm.
interesting.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing it just gives you a lot more confidence to make decisions by the sounds of it. Like just an underlying confidence that, you're going to be getting money next month and the month after and the month after. Because I can imagine with perm as well, like, okay, you've had an amazing quarter, but if you're starting from scratch again and things and pipelines looking thin, I can imagine the decisions that you make, can be compromised based on the fact that you just need to get cash in essentially. So it's really interesting that you're in that situation now. What other? I feel like there's so much to learn, Dawson, from what you've done. And is there anything that we haven't asked you about and talked about that might be useful for another recruiter listening to this that again wants to transition into kind of temp contract?
I think we've covered a lot of the basics. I would say you can start small with it. I think a lot of people think that it's going to be this huge undertaking and that they're going to have to change their business. There's no one saying that you can't have one, two, three, four, five contractors billing. And if that adds, call it three, five, $10,000 to your monthly book, that's awesome. Like that's a win. You don't have to make it this huge undertaking.
Yeah.
You can just kind of stack those pieces small, see if you like it. If not, scale it back. If you're all in on it, go ahead and scale it up.
It's a really good point actually, because it's like you can get your feet wet. You don't have to go all in. You can actually get your feet wet. And is there a minimum amount that you need to work with these EOR kind of companies? Do they say there's a minimum amount you need to be working at in order for them to front load and to help?
I know with my back office, Sinister back office, with my partner, like they didn't ask me that. When I first came to them, I had two openings and said, "Can y'all help me get started?" And
Awesome.
they were all in for it. I think they're probably from their own profits, they're delighted to see that we're doing well. So
Yeah.
they definitely like to see you scale, but I think most of them would take you on just with a few roles.
Awesome. And what percentage do they take as well, Dawson, from the fee?
Yeah, I should have that answer. I know I should know all my numbers. Right now, I would kind of just be throwing something at you. I have a really good idea that if a rate pays this much, maybe the market here, this is what we're going to take home. I don't know exactly what their take is. It's felt very fair and scalable in terms of what we have with them when I see the work we have to put in versus what we get out. But I don't know their exact percentage.
I mean, it couldn't be that much, I'm guessing, Dawson. Otherwise, you probably would have noticed by now, if that makes sense. If you could give
Yeah,
us like a
certainly.
very, very round figure, like just finger in the air figure of what you think it might be. Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Is it 30%? Like what would you think? Just finger in the air figure.
I think after they have accounted for payroll, taxes, insurance, I think when you factor all that in plus their cut, I think that all totals to 15%
Cool.
for me. So I once again, like they might see this and be like, Dawson, that was so wrong. But I think it's 15% all in.
Cool. Yeah, we won't
But
hold you to it. It might be higher or lower, but I'm guessing in and around that 15-20% mark. Could be higher, could be lower. But still, I mean, very reasonable considering how much work they're doing, which is a lot. Like they're doing a huge amount on the back end to keep everything running. Sorry, Sam, were you going to say something? No, I was going to go just into BD. I'm just curious, Dawson. I want to get into temp. I want a new client in the temp world. What is your go-to BD method? Like, how are you going to approach a new client? What would you do personally?
So I would try to keep your process very similar to what works for Perm. If you're someone that gets on the phone and talks to individuals, figures out their pain point, do the same thing, just kind of change the conversation. If you are someone that utilizes automation, which is where we've had a lot of success, we have multiple inboxes running for email automation, and we also have multiple LinkedIn Dripify campaigns going as well. That's where we've had a lot of success and where we develop our leads. So I try to signal interest from prospects there, and then I try to get them on the phone as quick as I can. That's what works for us. But for me, it is speaking to their pain points. For me, in a manufacturing facility, if your headcount's not where it needs to be, you're paying people too much because you're having to cover overtime for that staff. You're overworking your staff. Your management team is having to step on the floor and not be in the office where they belong. They're spending time trying to keep up with hiring. So I speak to those pain points and then I try to let them know here's the roles that we're really good at: skill trades, engineering, plant leadership. We can also help with admin and executive, but we try to tell them really clearly what we try to make them feel their problem, their pain, and then we identify our solution and try to just like get that first little bite. Just tell us about that one role that you have, and then we'll see what we can build from there.
Really interesting, dude. I find any recruiter, and from mine and Ben's testing as well, if you're using automation successfully, the message needs to be hitting on some true pain that they actually want to respond to. It can't be a blanket message. And so I'm curious, what are you what are you saying in your email and LinkedIn message that is getting the bite, Dawson? Is it focusing on the pains? If so, is it a short message, a big message? Can you tell us a bit more about that, if that's okay?
Definitely in favor of the short message. We all get those really long emails. Click on to the next. Try to get their attention within the first, call it 3 seconds. I think social media has killed our attention spans, and our inboxes are flooded.
Mm.
Um, but I try to hit on pain first, and then I try to provide on our solution and what we do very quickly after. My emails are typically 2 to 3 lines, and then in terms of follow ups, I'm now in favor more of doing more follow ups, but I like to space them out. I think a lot of people build 3-step sequences, and you get message 1 on Monday, message 2 on Tuesday, message 3 on Thursday, and it's like, boom, you just threw all your ammunition at them. If they didn't respond, it's dead, it fizzles out. I
Mm.
like to space it out. I'll send the first message, let it breathe for a few days, let the next message come later that week. And I might let the sequence go 11 steps deep, but it might take 3 to 4 months to run through it because maybe they don't need me today, but I'm in the back of their mind and they need me 6 weeks from now and they get that next one.
Interesting. And again, this is a tough question, but what pain, because you said your message is pain and then a bit about what you do, Dawson. Is that like the main message? What pain, because if you're making it short and you've only got like 2, 3 lines, there's not much
Yeah.
you can put in there, is there? So what pain has grabbed their attention the most out of all the messages you tested? Is there one thing that if you say, you're like, if I try this, I know for this company, it's probably going to get a hit. What would you say, mate?
Yeah. So it's just being short staffed. A lot of these manufacturers need 50 people and they've got 35 people doing the work. And then piggybacking off of that, they're paying people overtime to keep up with it. The hiring managers are having to get pulled off of the floor to do that work themselves. They're distracted. And then in terms of like, that's the very literal problem. But then the bigger picture that hits for them is that production quota falls behind and operations get slowed. And then they have customer issues. So I can speak very literally to those pain points, then maybe in the next message, I start to speak about the bigger picture. So I try to hit them on the very literal pain. If that doesn't win, try to get bigger picture. And then some messages are just as simple as like, do you have an opening in this space? And I'll just kind of call it engineering skill trades, this or that, because maybe if the pain didn't reach them, let's just make it as literal as like, do you have an opening here?
Cool.
I
Nice.
Yeah, it works from time to time. If you only have one message, I wouldn't say just say, "Do you have an opening?" But if it's supporting a thread of like quality messages, then I think it has value.
Awesome, man. And I can't remember what you said, Dawson. Do you get your best results via email, LinkedIn, or calls? Like, where do you get the best responses from?
So in terms of generating the leads, it's email primarily number one, LinkedIn number two supporting. I will say if I was posting LinkedIn content more consistently, I think I would get more value out of my LinkedIn messaging because it keeps you fresh. It makes you more of a real person. There's more than just living and dying by your two messages in your profile picture that allows them to keep it fresh. And times where I've been more consistent on LinkedIn, I've seen more success on LinkedIn. But in a state that I am right now, where I've been a little more inactive, email tends to win. But that is where I have the most success in terms of generating the leads. From there, it's phone calls. You would be shocked at how many people respond to me on email and say, I need an engineer and like 5 welders. And I'd say, oh, great. Tell me more and let's get on a call. Ghost, they're gone. And it happens every week. I'll get up to 5 leads. And then, like, if I try to keep emailing with them, they're gone. So once I see those messages, I give them a call, try to get them on the phone. If we don't have the full conversation there, let's set up a call. But I'm always trying to find the silver. I late earlier in my career, I tried to find the silver bullet that kept me off the phones. The more I've done it, the more of the people that have come on here that build $1 million. I think everybody would say you gotta get on the phone.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. And so, just to clarify, you're getting the response, the lead, as you say, via email. But then, as soon as you get that kind of bite, you're giving them a call as quickly as possible and saying, "Hey, I know you just responded to my email. Let's have a chat," kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah, try to
Awesome.
get them on the phone as quick as possible.
Interesting. Awesome. And then, just on that piece, when you get them on the phone, what are you saying? Is it as simple as, "Hey, I know you just responded. Let's have a chat," or is there a particular kind of script that you've got that works, Dawson, for that initial kind of call?
I've always led with questions that make it about them. I've never started a conversation by saying, I'm with Ennis Group and this is what we do. I ask them as many questions as I can before I start to tell them about me, because I want to gather as much information about them, the problem that they have, what they're looking to solve, what their experience is with agencies. And then I can tailor my call it pitch to their particular pain. Because
Yeah.
I would hate to just throw a blanket statement out there that misses and then trying to have to backtrack after that to sell
Yeah.
them on Hennis Group and myself. I love to lead with curiosity and ask questions, and then the sell is so much easier because at that point, they've already said everything. You've asked good questions. You have all the ammunition you need to just close them right there.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
it. If you were calling a decision maker, Dawson, again, these are tough questions, so thank you for dealing with us. If you were calling decision maker and you had, again, you probably only have like 10, 30 seconds until they're like, sorry, no, I want to go. What question do you usually open up with? Is there like one question where you're like, you usually open up with this question because you know it's going to get the best response?
If I know that they have an opening, I just want to know how long has this been open and like what's the impact of it? Like,
Cool.
why is it open? Did you lose someone? Are you growing the team? Is that why it's open? That way I can speak to that. And then I want to know like what's the impact of it being open? And I know a lot of people go deep on that, but I'm curious about like what's the impact of getting it filled? Because yeah, we can sit here and beat up on the fact that it's open, production's gonna fall behind. But like I want to talk about what does the right person in that seat do for you? So if you get Timothy or Jessica in here and they're a rock star, it's gonna increase production by like 120%. I want to be able to talk to that. So I want to try to get some information out of them like that first.
Yeah.
Really
Love that.
interesting. And one last question on that. That's if they do have a job opening. Are you usually only targeting people that have a job opening? Is that like your creme de la creme of BD? And are you going after anyone that doesn't have a job opening? I guess Dawson is my.
So right now, in a time when we're very at capacity in terms of recruiting, and our biz dev is just about bringing like the top of the funnel. Is it the top of the funnel? Whatever, like the very
Yeah, top
high
of the funnel.
value stuff that we know is closable. I'm usually just going after the individuals that have expressed interest. At
Cool.
times that we're bringing in someone new to BD, or I'm more focused on just trying to hit the mass general market, then I'll speak to individuals that don't have those jobs.
Cool.
Not sure if it's right or wrong, but like I don't have an opening script where I talk about Hennis Group and all that. I always try to be conversational because whenever I get cold calls or made the cold calls with the script, it gets shut down. It's so easy to knock out. Versus if you just look someone up and you either know a thing about them, their company, or where they live, and you can just ask one or two questions. Then they're like, wait, what's your name again? And then you can play
Cool.
off of that and have a conversation. I think that's the best call. It's very hard to like script that and coach it. And I've found
Yeah.
that and I've hired my own BD people. But as I've grown that tool and ability to conversate, that's been my most successful method.
Great tip, man. Absolutely love that. So when there's a job opening, you're kind of going in with questions straight away to dig out that pain. When maybe there's not a clear job opening, you're conversational, trying to ask them something about them, and then kind of opening the floor for conversation.
Yeah, and I think if it's someone that ultimately would buy from you, you're gonna have a little bit of an opportunity to conversate. If it's someone that just gives you the hard shut off, I'm okay with losing that conversation because that probably wasn't gonna go somewhere anyways.
Yeah, interesting, man.
The hardo, like, great sales guru would shun me for that, but that's just like my opinion.
Hey, man, it's working for you, so keep on doing
Yeah,
your
exactly.
thing.
As long as it gets
Yeah.
you the end result, it's like, and I don't think any sales guru can tell you that it's wrong as long as you're getting the outcome, which it sounds like you are, Dawson.
Yeah.
Dawson, thank you so much, mate. That was a really great podcast and just really interesting for me and Sam as well, because we actually have had a lot of contract recruiters on here and some that do temp, but we've never had someone in your situation that's grown it as quickly as you have and that's doing perm and kind of transitioned into the contract temp world. So it's just really interesting, and I hope this was valuable to other recruiters listening, because I absolutely loved it. So thank you so much for coming on, Dawson. Really appreciate it, mate.
I appreciate it, guys. Like I said in the beginning, I know you guys do a lot for this community. I've been very familiar with you guys for years now, and I think a lot of people really get a lot of great stuff from what you guys do. So if you could keep contributing to this little community, we'd appreciate it.
Oh,
Thanks,
absolutely,
Dawson.
dude.
It means a lot, man. Thank you, man.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, please don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and Spotify. Tune in for another episode next week, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon. Peace and love.